Askrs and Aether raids. Now normally I don't do this kind of video, but today everyone I wanted to talk about some units, and why not Askrs, right? So let's get started here. So first off, why use the Askrs? Well, they're evergreen units. So what does this mean? That means that they're persistent in every game mode pretty much. Arena, Aether raids, they're the main story characters in the story, so if you don't want to use them, well, they're here to stay, and might as well try to use them as best of their ability. So let's first talk about their usage in Aether raids. So they can be used from tanking strats, Galeforcing, to being a support, debuffer, choking chills. So I'll be showing a couple of images, builds on what kind of usage they're going to bring. So let's look at their stats and the pros and cons. So Alphonse, good attack, good defense, speed and res, not so great. Sharina, jack of all trades, but still sucks in the res. Anna, good speed, especially for a Gen 1 unit. Better res than the other two, but attack and defense are no bueno. So in this video, I'll be looking at how to shore up their weaknesses, and especially during light season. Now, here's the thing. In this video, we'll be talking about light season primarily, and the reason is the mythics, right? We get Air and Peony for free, and Altina and Naga, as the time of this recording, they're the only two offense mythics we have. So that isn't that great. As well, Air shores up the weakness of two of these units, and even Anna to an extent. Res is a pretty important stat, especially when there are a lot of mage units, or units that hit your resistance, so mages, right? Anyways, if Astra does have a mythic that shores up res and is a dancer, you might look at using Askrs in Astra as well, in terms of tanking primarily. So let's just jump into it here. So the builds shown here are Peony and Air, so speed and resistance are getting buffed. Some support is also added. If you're tanking, you want to some support your tank. It's pretty good. And we got 5 infantry flowers here, which isn't that big of an investment because they're a Gen 1 unit. So if you have the flowers, be sure to try to use them on the Askrs here. Anyways, let's talk about the skills first. We got DC, NFU, attack, speed, smoke, soul, repo. Let's talk about speed res solo first. Shores up Alphonse's weakness for sure. It's pretty good on Sharina as well. Anna, she would probably like speed defense solo if that ever comes out, but still quite solid. We got the weapons. Now let's talk about the weapons here. Alphonse and Sharina, their preference weapons are pretty solid, and we chose the Res Refine because resistance is, again, pretty important stat against those mages, which those two definitely have their weakness. Anna, attack, right? It's not that much, but she needs to get any source of attack, so attack refine on the weapon. Now for Anna here, I picked Huge Fan because it gives special excel when you're buffed, which can easily work with Peony, and her attack stat and defense stat will also increase if she has a rally hone buff on her, which is easily done. So at that, plus the special excel is very nice. Now alternative to Anna's weapon, you could run Woe Gun, which gives the plus 10 special damage, plus 10 damage when her special works, and you can run her with support unit Brave Lucina. We'll get to supports in a minute, but there is another alternative to her weapon. So let's talk about these two skills. Or I'm showing the skills right here, NFU, but NCD versus NFU. Which to pick? Well, they're kind of like two branches on the same tree here. You can go one way or the other, but they're kind of like side grades. You want to run NCD if you don't have any checks to fire sweep, dazzling, etc. And those are common, especially with Veronica. But if you have other ways to deal with that, then NFU is a very strong contender as well. You stop guaranteed doubles, you stop things preventing doubles, and things that guarantee double in Light Dark Season are Yoon and Bramamind. Those units could pose a problem. So if you've got NFU laying around, or if you want to spend the codes, it is a very, very good skill. DC, of course, as usual, you just want to tank stuff, so you want to attack from any range. Pretty good. Alright. Now, with your tanks, you want to support them. So, here are a few examples here with Corrin, Brave Lucina, Clive. Replace Clive with Matilda if you want. Now, let's talk about some of their highlights. Corrin gives +4 to all stats, compared to the other two, which give +3 to all stats. And you probably have one laying around because he is a red sword. And if you've been playing long enough, or maybe if you haven't, this guy's not too bad, right? Brave Lucina, I've seen this quite a lot on my replays. She is very common because of her special excel, and she comes with Drive Atk too, which is also a great support skill. And yeah, she's a good option as well. Clive and Matilda. Now, why you pick these two, right? They're pretty good if you're running tactics buffs, where you have 2 infantry, 2 flyers from the 2 mythics, and then you need another unit, right? When I say 2 infantry, your second infantry could actually be the 3rd mythic as of right now, which would be Mila, so having Clive would be pretty nice. But if you don't run tactics and you just run with the Peony buff, you could just run even another support unit. You can actually run Askr, support, your 2 mythics. Pretty funny, but it could work. So I prefer using Clive also because I personally have a problem dealing with other movement types, armors, right? So he is effective against armors. Matilda, she doesn't have that effect, but she has -1 on her cooldown on her weapon, and her stat line favors resistance, which is pretty nice, so she can also soak chills, or she can actually deploy Ploy with her high res stat. And Ploys are pretty good because you can choose where to land them versus chills, but again, the skills are kind of varied with each support unit. They're kind of interchangeable depending on how you're going to soak and all that stuff. So here's an example of Clive here. We'll get to Bram in a moment. He's running Fury 3. That's definitely interchangeable. You can either push his attack and defense stat with other skills, or fort defense res. It really doesn't matter. I like to run Fury 3. Drive Spd. We'll get to this in a moment, but you can actually push the Askr speeds way into the 50s, even some hitting 60s. And yeah, B skill could be a chill. I went with Swordbreaker. It doesn't really matter here. Now, let's talk about this unit here on the right. Bramamind. This unit makes it so that your tank goes 1v1. So your support unit, bam, is cut. So I do want to highlight that tanking with Askrs is good, but when you come to certain units like Bramamind, you got to make sure you do the math and make everything work out. If it doesn't work out, I advise you strongly to have different team comps in Aether raids. In the video description down below, there will be a link towards a guide on Aether raids, like how to climb, what team comps to use, and that guide is very, very useful. I highly encourage you to take a read at it. It has different strategies from, of course, tanking, Galeforce, hit and run, vantage, you name it. So here are the more, an example rather, of the math, a little bit of math involved with using the Askrs. So in this example, I chose Anna. So you get 8 attack from male Corrin with ally support, S level, 1 space away. And then, oh, 1 space in between, so I guess it would be 2 spaces away, right? You know what I mean. And the Peony drive weapon, if you can line it up, that's pretty good. So what, she's sitting at 60 attack here, 14 speed from male Corn with Peony weapon, and from the speed res solo. So 63 speed, 11 defense from male Corrin. If you run double drive defense as well. So put her at 40 defense. It says 5 resistance from male Corn as well, but I didn't include the speed res solo here. So 11 resistance. So 51 res. This doesn't include, of course, buffs. You can add tactics. You can also take a look at huge fan, right? Get the attack and defense increase when you are buffed. So you can really push that defense into mid 40s. You can even push it to 50 if you have Mila. And yeah, we can look at Alphonse as well. This guy's known to be slow. If you just run the drive speed, if you go with Clive, this guy can hit 50 speeds plus, easy. And Sharina, of course. She's good. Now here are the triple mythic builds, and with Pulse Smoke. Pulse Smoke is a very good skill. If you don't have a way to deal with IP, highly encourage to try to pick it up. From my experience, and personally from my experience, I feel Pulse Smoke is very good on range units, and the reason is that range units can hit from afar, and you can dance them, and you can either get out or just go for another attack afterwards, but you're already hitting them with the Pulse Smoke, or a unit with the Pulse Smoke. So if you want, you could put them on your tank, but I like it personally on range units. Now, triple mythic would mean that you'd have Mila. Mila is a very good unit, very cheat unit with denying dances or rally traps. However, with Hell's release, it could be a problem where they have high enough defense stat where they could avoid that. So be sure to make sure you have all that checked out with increasing Mila's defense. But 80 HP fridges are pretty good. Anna can't hit it, but I mean, look at that. Her defense is shored up, so that's pretty good. Now, here are some example builds for Galeforcing. For Galeforcing, personally, from my experience, I've only Galeforced with Anna a couple of times, and it wasn't really a highlight part of the stream. It was more like, oh, it so happened that this worked out. So I'm not the expert at this, but in theory, these could work in a way. If you have Valoria, it is very nice with these units, Slang Edge, and then Valoria, so it's -2. And then you are set with 2 charge special. Now, with the release of Hell, Galeforcing could be a bit tough, because she could be left alive if you don't double her. Even Alphonse's 44 speed could get screwed over, right? Even if you have tactics, 6, Peony, another 3 from her weapon if you line it all correctly. Could still be a problem, but we'll see how tough Galeforcing would be with Askrs against like Hill team comps. There's also the Air Force strategy with Galeforcing. I won't get too in depth into it, but essentially you just hit with air with this arm trap with her Lithiaberg and Fury recoil damage, bring her down to Wings of Mercy range, and then your secondary unit like the Askrs could just jump in and get the kill, and then continue with the train. Now, here are some Galeforce builds that are very, how do I say it? They're memes. They could work in theory, but let's check it out. Let's first look at Anna. Now Anna's weapon, very nice for preference weapon. Able to teleport to a lot of places, but needs a time pulse. If you have one, pick it up, right? Flash and Blade Force with Sparrow. Again, her attack stat isn't that high, so again, this is a very meme build, but it could work out. Sharina, now this one's a bit more doable, but the weapon is very hard to get at this point. Curtains, -2, get the Time Pulse, -3, -4 with Quicken Pulse, 1 charge Galeforce, pair with Valoria, you're set, so you don't have to deal with those stance 4 stuff, but if you beat the check, it's pretty good. It is pretty good. Oh, I forgot. Even if you have stance 4 stuff, it goes down to 1, but you would make it, it would work out. Alright, now Alphonse here. How do I say this? I got this from a Discord member, and it's interesting. You got the Brave Sword, Death Blow 4, low attack defense, Time Pulse, Heavy Blade. You get the guaranteed double. Well, not the double, but you get the 2-hit. So maybe. Sure. Alright. It is interesting, but again, meme builds. I don't recommend them, but if you somehow have all of these resources, maybe you want to consider. Alright, lastly, let's talk about using Askrs and support debuff options. You don't want to summer support them. You have another carry unit which does perfectly fine. Well, if you're using the Askrs as a bonus unit, why not equip them with some skills? You got Galeforce on all of them and Wings of Mercy, just in case if your carry unit's below 50%. Go sweep in, maybe soak some damage so you don't kill a ranged unit perhaps, so you can get the Aether. But Askrs as bonus units are pretty good because of their bonus unit plus double Mythic, high HP value, great for Panic Ploy. They're also good for soaking chills. Anna has a good res stat. Alphonse good attack, good defense, so I got the attack defense seal on him. Sharina is a little middling, but she's okay. You can also run link skills in the B, so you can buff your carry unit, buff the Askr themselves, and then yeah, go to town with that stuff. Anyways, these are just some example builds on how I use my Askrs, and maybe you could use your Askrs. If you guys have any other build suggestions or things you want to see from the channel, leave a comment down below. Now we don't do these videos. This is my first one, so thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Peace.